Information Management, Chapter 2, Data Modeling. But before we go further with our discussion today, let us pray the Dominican blessing. In the name of Father, Son, the Holy Spirit. Amen.
May God the Father bless us. God the Son lead us. May God the Holy Spirit enlighten us. Give us eyes to see with, ears to hear with, hands to do the work of God with, feet to walk with, and mouth to preach the word of salvation. And may the angel of peace watch over us and lead us at last with the rich gift of the kingdom. Amen.
Amen. In the name of Father, Son, the Holy Spirit. Amen. Okay. So for last chapter, you have been introduced to data, importance of database management, what are the features of database management, basically on how data management, information management is related to your course. It's actually vital in your field of choice. Now, actually, we have tools that we can use to further study the movement, the flow of our data using data modeling. Since most of you have identified kung ano yung gagawin nila, like is the usual TPS, karamihan sa inyo is TPS, so madali sa inyo makarelate with our discussion. So example, ang TPS ko is a library system. Mag-focus lang tayo with one business environment. So let's say library system. Lahat naman kayo nakapag-library na. Lahat kayo siguro nakakita ng library card. May library card naman kayo. You have experience to use the library. You have experienced what is the process or how we transact in a library. So alam nyo yung workaround. So if you will be doing a library system, a software for a library system, for a library, ano-ano kaya yung mga data na kailangan natin to design our software? Ano yung mga kailangan nating information? Basically, ang library system para nilang sales inventory. Difference lang, yung product natin ay instead na product, anong kino-consider natin dito?
Mga books lang.
Books. So, we have to have information about books. What else? Meron tayong information ng books. Sapat na ba yun? Kung meron akong information ng book, sapat na ba yun for a library system to record the library transactions?
Yung ano po, yung hiniram nyo pong mga libro po.
Anong tawag natin doon?
Ano? Okay.
Anong tawag doon sa mga nangihiram? Anyone? That is called wrong spelling.
Borrowing.
O borrowing. Double R ba? Borrower.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay? So, borrower. Nangihiram ng libro. So, I need information about books, information about borrowers. Let's focus on the books first. Ano kaya in specific information about the books that we need to record?
Title?
Yes, Kenneth?
Title po.
Title. The title of the book. What else?
May code po ng book.
Code ng
Code
book
number.
or number. Minsan ay tinatawag tayong ISBN or number. Meron pa?
Yung ano ma'am, yung genre.
Genre or category.
Opo.
Meron pa ba? Wala na ba? Ito lang, title, code, category. How about
Author.
author? Okay, author, category, books. So sabihin natin yan yung mga kailangan natin. For borrower, anong kailangan information, specific information na kailangan natin for borrower?
Name, ma'am.
ID na. Textbook po. Yung warang booklet.
I'm sorry, Francis?
Ano po, kung parang para makakuha po ng booklet po, kailangan po ng picture po, ID, pangalan niyo po, ID number. Yan po, ma'am. Sa address.
Name,
Picture po.
photo,
Opo.
address,
Address.
what else?
Ano po, yung time na iniram niyo po yung book, at saka po yung kailan po ibabalik.
Yung may kinalaman lang sa borrower.
Sorry.
Yung may kinalaman muna sa borrower.
Contact number ma'am. Pwede po
Contact
ba yun?
number. Meron pa ba? Importante. O kunwari, yan na yun. So sabi natin, system is following components of IPO. Input, process, output. Ano kaya ang process na meron sa isang library system? Anong process? Ano yung action na ginagawa natin sa library system? What is the action? What activities you do in library?
Maghihiram ng libro, ma'am.
In English,
Borrowing books.
borrow. So books are being borrowed. Ano ba yung spelling? By borrower. Okay? So this is the transaction. Now, if merong isang estudyante na magbaborrow ng book, ano yung information na kailangan natin for that specific transaction? Again, the question is, if merong specific na estudyante na magbaborrow ng book, specific book, ano yung information na kukunin natin?
Info, ma'am. Info sa estudyante na nag-iram tsaka yung book.
Okay. Yung information ng borrower, and yung information ng yung borrower lang ba? O alam ko na, ikaw nanghiram ka. Okay na yon?
Information dun sa book.
Information ng book na hiniram. So kung iisipin nyo, the logic with this, I have a list of the borrowers with or without active borrow. Wala o meron siyang hiniram. Basta alam ko possible borrower siya. Like example, if sa DCT library, lahat ng students ng DCT, andito yung records nila. Kasi pwede silang manghiram ng libro anytime. So may hiniram man siya for the whole score year or wala, nandun pa rin siya sa list ko. Kasi borrower siya. Kung sa sales and transaction, customer siya. Kung hotel yan, customer siya. Kung pasyente yan, nagpa-check up man siya o hindi for the rest of the school year, nandun pa rin yung records niya. May nagpa-check up man siya, hindi siya nagkasakit for the 1 year, 2 years, andun pa rin yung records niya. Kasi, kailangan natin yung information niya. Customer, student, patient, borrower. Okay? Nagets po yun? O, kunwari nagets. So, I have a list of students and also I have a list of books. Lahat ng books na meron ako dun sa library, nakalista yan. Hiniram man o hindi hiniram yung books, 1 kopya, 3 kopya. Kailangan pa pala yung copy dito. Ilang copy? Nandyan sa list ng books. So example, nanghiram siya, Systems Analysis Design book. Yan yung title ng libro. Hiniram ni Rona. So from my listahan, check ko, i-verify ko if bona fide student, if allowed ba manghiram si Rona, kung meron ba siyang account sa akin, pwede siyang mahiram. Kung makikita ko sa listahan ng list of borrowers yung pangalan ni Rona, then pwede kong ipahiram kay Rona yung libro na ihiramin niya. So, verify ko, Rona nasa list of borrowers. Okay. Yung kinuha niyang libro nasa list of books ko. Okay. Ngayon, yung information ni Rona at saka yung information ni Sad, dito ko siya makikita sa transactions. So, ano yung makikita ko? Information of the borrower, information of book, what else? Yung mga sinabi nyo kanina. Meron na akong information ng borrower, information ng book. Ano pa yung importante?
Date, ma'am, kung kailan babalik sa kailan.
Okay. So,
kailan
kailan nangyari yung transaction? So, date, time. Kung nakaset na, okay, every 3 days lang yung hiraman. After 3 days, pwede mong ibalik yan. Automatic, yung date return, pwede mo ma-compute. Mag-a-add, magpa-plus 3 ka lang sa date na hiniram. considering weekends and holidays. Kung 3 days. Pero kung wala namang ruling na, after 3 days dapat soli mo yan, itatanong lang ni librarian kung kailan mo susoli. Ma'am, after 1 week po. Ino-note natin, will be returned after 7 days. Ibilangin niya. Today is 24. By the 31st, i-record ko dito, 31st, kailangan isoli mo to. Yes, ma'am. Kanirona. So, naka-record 31st. Pagka April na niya sinole, it's possible na late na yan kasi napag-usapan 31st niya susole. So, kapag na-late, anong rulings natin doon? May penalty ba? May demerit ba? Mare-report ba siya? Babayaran niya ba yung libro? So, ano yung mga rulings doon? So, yun yung mga kinoconsider natin in a library system. First, surface pa lang yan. Naintindihan to that point?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, tandaan niyo yung information na pinag-aaralan natin for library system. Those information or any type of system, especially information system, the information that is used for any type of information system is actually can be represented using conceptual models. Conceptual model is a model made of composition of concepts which are used to help people to know, understand, simulate a subject the model represents. If your conceptual model represents a sales inventory system, we will be able to know, understand, simulate that specific sales inventory system. If you're doing payroll system, your conceptual model should be, if people will be looking at your conceptual model, they should be able to know, understand, simulate your conceptual model because your model represents your information system. It describes the structure of the whole database for a community of users. Therefore, if the conceptual model represents your information system, this also represents the database. Kasi nga, alignment. Your software should be aligned with the database. Database should be aligned with the data used in your software. And your model should be able to represent your information system and your database. It also hides the details of physical storage structure. Pag physical storage structure, the memory, anong specific software, yung mga technicalities, hindi mo na kailangan malaman or hindi natin nilalagay sa conceptual model. Ang kailangan nating malaman sa conceptual model is ano yung mga entities or people involved, ano yung mga concepts involved, the data types, the relationship of these entities, operators, or relationships din yon, how they interact, anong involvement ng one player to the second player, one entity to the another entity, constraints or yung business rules. Ano yung pwede, hindi pwede. Yun lang yung i-represent natin sa conceptual model. Hindi na yung technicalities like physical storage, ano yung software, ano yung file size, speed, performance, wala nang ganon. Ito lang yung focus ng conceptual model. And the common conceptual model that we use is Entity Relationship Model or ERM, sometimes called Entity Relationship Diagram or ERD. ERM is an abstract conceptual representation of data. Entity Relationship Modeling is a database modeling method used to produce type of conceptual schema or semantic data model of a system. Often a relational database, and its requirement is requirements in a top-down fashion. So if you read Conceptual Model or ERD, parang flowchart din siya. Top to bottom, that's how you read the flowchart. That's how you read the ERD. Top to bottom, left to right. So ganun yung behavior in studying, understanding, simulating a ERD. Diagrams created by this process are called entity relationship diagrams, ER diagrams, or ERD. Okay, entity. Entity relationship diagram, that's kaya nga siya mayroong entity relationship dun sa title. Ito yung mga important concepts or components sa diagram na to. So entity, we define entity. This may be defined as a thing which is recognized as being capable of an independent existence and which can be uniquely identified. An entity is an abstraction of from the complexity of some domain. When we speak of an entity, we normally speak of some aspects of the real world. Pwedeng tangible, intangible, tao, bagay, concept, idea, as long as it's existing in the real world, it is representing an aspect of the real world which can be distinguished from other aspects of the real world. So pwedeng iba itong entity na to with the other entity. Entities can be taught as nouns. So alam natin yung nouns. Proper noun, pwede, hindi pala. Hindi naman siya proper. Common noun usually. Pangalan. Examples are computer, employee, song, mathematical theorem. So with this one, dun sa dinescribe natin or nilista nating library system, ano kaya yung mga entity? Again, dun sa library system natin kanina, what could be identified as entity? One clue, noun daw siya.
Nagira, ma'am.
Sorry? Ano yun? Ano yun?
Yung borrower po.
Borrower. Borrower can be a noun. What else?
Student.
Student or borrower. Kung yung library natin ay nasa school, student. Okay? What else?
Yung librarian.
Librarian is an entity. What else?
Book.
Wala na, yan lang. Okay. So sabi niya, yung mga clues natin, entities can be taught as noun. Also, entities can be identified or meron siyang unique identifier. Can be uniquely identified. Kapag kayo, estudyante, what is your unique identifier?
Student ID.
Student ID. Some will answer fingerprint, tongue print, iris print. Those are unique biometrics. Pero when we talk about unique identifier, what information about you that will uniquely identify you. Commonly, for common people, they will answer my full name. Ako lang naman yung Rachel Ann Capiz sa pamilya namin. Ako lang yung Rachel Ann Capiz sa barangay namin. Possible na ako lang yung Rachel Ann Capiz sa school. However, it is possible na merong Rachel Ann Capiz sa ibang lugar. Therefore, yung name cannot be used as unique identifier. Common name, Mark, Mark de la Cruz. Mga ganyan, Juan de la Cruz. Very common. Tapos nagkakaroon kayo ng magkapangalan. Nagiging iba lang sa middle name. Pero it's possible na parehong-pareho, pareho ng first name, pareho ng middle name, pareho ng last name, pero hindi magkamag-anak, hindi magkaugnay, nasa ibang lugar, pero kung pag nagkataon na nasa isang database yon, isang list yon, magkakaroon ng confusion kasi parehong-pareho. Possible yon, di ba? Magkapangalan na magkapangalan. Kaya naman, hindi natin ginagamit yung full name as unique identifier. For students, you use your student ID kasi once na nag-enroll ka sa isang school, meron kang unique ID. May ina-assign sa'yo na identification number, student number na sa'yo lang yon. Kapag ka merong student sa DCT na magkapareho silang student ID, that would be wrong. Kasi student ID should be unique. Okay? So if entities can be defined or identified uniquely, ano ang unique identifier ng librarian? Anong information ng librarian that could be used as a unique identifier? Aray ko. Wala ba?
Yung ID din niya, ma'am.
Yung ID, sometimes called employee number. Kasi librarians are considered employee of any organization or the school, employee of the school. So, more or less, meron niyang employee number that would be his or her unique identifier. Sa library system, wala na ba tayong NPP? Ano ba yung mga information na binanggit nyo kanina? Wala na bang unique identifier doon? Wala na bang noun doon?
Yung sa book, ma'am.
Yes, Rona?
Book.
Books. Books are nouns, true or false? Nouns yan.
Yeah, what kind of books?
Sa ERD, figures, hindi. Parts of parts of a sentence, parts of speech, ang pag-aaralan lang natin or may connection sa ERD ay nouns, adjective, and verb. So ito lang pagpipilian nyo. Are books are verb, adverb, adjective, or noun? Hindi naman to verb. Hindi naman to adjective. Probable noun siya. Agree?
Yes, ma'am.
Meron bang unique identifier? So, we have agreed that books are nouns. Meron bang unique identifier ang books?
Yung author or yung title ng book. Sorry, ma'am.
Author, it's possible na yung author mag-release siya ng same title of book. Ang difference lang niya is edition 1, edition 2. Di ba may ganon? Parehong author, parehong title. So, hindi pwede si author. What else? Wala na bang information about books that could be used to uniquely identify the book?
Title.
Sinabi niyo yung kanina. Anong information yon? Title, hindi pwedeng title kasi pwedeng merong magkapare-parehong title. Tapos magkaiba-ibang author. Hindi naman pwedeng author kasi posible na same title, same author, kaso yung release lang niya is naiiba. Published on 1995, published 2001, so edition 1, edition 2, original copy.
Barcode, ma'am.
Yes, Rona?
Barcode.
Barcode or yung code niya, or minsan you can check the ISBN or yung book number. That would help us identify the book uniquely. So with this category, criteria, uniquely identified aspect of the real world, noun, these can be identified as entity. Follow? Is that clear? O yung 12 kong estudyante sagot. Naintindihan mo that point? Okay, next. Relationship. Relationship captures how two or more entities are related. Very simple. To one another. Relationship can be taught as verb, linking two or more nouns. Example, company owns computer. So, ang entity natin dito, company, computer, ang relationship ay own. Sabi niya, verb. Another example is employee and department. Ang relationship is supervise. Employee is entity, department is entity, relationship is supervise. So, employee supervises department. So, parang pag bumuo ka ng sentence, halimbawa dun sa first one, company, hirap na naman to. If you will convert this into semantics, company owns computer. Yung second one, employee supervises department. Yung third one, artist performs a song. Last one is mathematician prove theorem. So your entities are, sabi niya, relationship is a relation between one entity and another entity. 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 Relationship is the verb. Owns, relates the company and the computer. Supervises is the relationship between employee and department. Perform is the relationship between artist and song. Mathematician is the relationship between prove is the relationship between mathematician and theorem. So that is the relationship. It shows the relation, the association between two or more entities. Pag nakita natin kung ano yung relation between one entity to another entity and it is a verb, it should be a verb, then you have a relationship between your two entities. Clear? Copy? Nasundan po yon? I will repeat. If nakita nyo yung relationship between two entities and it should be a verb, then you have a relationship between the entities. Okay? O yung 13 kong estudyante, sagot.
Okay, ma'am.
Thank you. So, if sabi nyo kanina, book is a relationship. Book is an entity. Student is an entity. What is the relationship between them?
Borrowing.
Borrow. If it is a verb, make sure you follow the singular form or plural form. Book, borrowed by, nauna pala yung student. Book, borrowed by student. Mabuo lang yung semantics, yung proper semantics. So, book, borrowed by students. If ang positioning naman niya is student, tapos books, follow the correct semantics. Student borrows books. Okay? So this is entity relationship. Follow? O customer and room. If I say customer is a entity and room is entity, what is the relationship?
Entities.
Sorry, Rona, come again.
Customer and enters inside.
Okay, pwedeng enter, pag-enter wala pang bayad eh. Rent, pwedeng rent. Avail, that could be the proper verb. So, customer avails room or customer rents room. Okay? Those are your correct verbs. Sa isang enrollment, enrollment nyo sa April, student is an entity sa enrollment system. True or false? Enrollment system, malamang ang verb natin dyan is enrolls. Yan yung relationship. Sino ang nag-e-enroll?
Student.
Student, sabi ni Raymond. So, student enrolls. So, this is your relationship. This is entity. Entity naman yung student, di ba? Sabi natin, meron siyang noun siya, may unique identifier. So, we can say that student is an entity. This is relationship. Verb. Students enrolls what? Ano bang ini-enroll nyo? Subjects. It's possible that you enroll subjects. Subject. Tangible, intangible. Intangible, hindi siya nahawakan. Pwede kaya yan na maging entity? Qualified ba yung subject to be an entity? Hindi naman siya naghahawakan, hindi naman siya nag-i-exist. Meron ba tong unique identifier?
Noon yung subject number. Tapos yung unique identifier niya kung anong klaseng subject or
Anong ginagamit yung unique identifier para sa mga subjects nyo? Halimbawa, for this subject, information management, what is the unique identifier?
Yung IT42 po, ganun ba yun?
IT42 or yung code natin. So kung ang subject may unique identifier pero hindi naman siya tangible, pwede ba siyang maging entity? Yes, possible na maging entity yan kasi ang definition ng entity, hindi naman kailangan tangible, intangible. Hindi yun yung tinitingnan. Ang tinitingnan natin is it should be able to represent an aspect of a real world. Subject is an aspect of the real world. It's an idea, it's a concept of the real world. Follow? So if we go back sa entity relationship diagram, subject is an entity. Meron siyang code. Noun siya. So student enrolls subject. We have entity 1, entity 2. We have shown the relationship between the two entities. Student enrolls subject. Clear? Up to that point?
yes, ma'am.
Okay, next. So after you identify the entity and the relationship between the entities, we will now list what are the attributes. It's important that you identify the attributes of the given or the existing information. Example, employee entity might have a social security number. That is an attribute. For an attribute, hindi niyo sinabi kung noun siya. Actually, noun siya. Okay. For an attribute that may be a noun, di siya verb, commonly noun, or information. Sa madaling sabi, di ba, we define attributes as descriptors, properties. If you remember your Visual Basic Programming, text box, ano yung attribute ng text box? For color, background color, font size, attributes, or properties. Tama? So this define yung entity or relationship. Attributes describe entity. Attributes describe relationship. Every entity, unless it is a weak entity, must have a minimal set of uniquely identifying attributes. So sinabi nga natin kanina, yung entities natin, meron siyang unique identifier. Yung identifier actually is called an attribute. Unique attribute siya. In proper terminology, we call that primary key. Key attribute, primary key, primary attribute, primary key. So nung nilista natin books, ano yung mga information that is related to books or that defines the books. Andyan yung title, andyan yung code, copy, number of copy, author, publishing house, publisher, year published. Those are the attributes of books. Lahat lang yan, they describe books. And among these attributes, meron tayong primary key. Primary key. Kapag student, ano yung mga information that describes the students? You have student ID, name, address, contact, religion, birthday, etc., etc. All of this information describes students. Ano yung primary key dito? Yung unique identifier ng student, student ID. So we call the student ID as the primary key. Key attribute, primary attribute. Okay? Kung sabi niya entities have attributes, also sabi niya relationship can have attributes. Ano yung relationship natin sa book and sa student? Borrow, di ba? O ano yung mga information under borrows, yung nilista natin kanina? Info about sino nang hiram. Info about ano yung hiniram. Date borrow. Date return. So all of this information will describe that specific transaction of borrowing. Minsan yung borrowing transaction, nilalagyan pa nila ng transaction ID. Yung transaction ID therefore is your unique identifier or primary key. Parang sales. Ang isang sales transaction, marami siyang information and those information describe that specific transaction. So again, entities can have attributes, transactions, relationship have attributes. Follow? Follow po. Clear up to that point?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, next. So, sa ERD, tatlo lang naman yung kinoconsider natin dyan. Entity, alam na natin kung ano yung entity. Unique, meron siyang unique identifier. Noun siya. Relationship, verbs, transactions. It shows the associativity or relationship between two entities. So, entity, relationship. And the third one is attributes. Attributes describe entities. Attributes describes relationship. So, yan yung laman ng ERD. ERD, sabi natin, conceptual model, parang flowchart. It represents your software. It represents your information system. It represents your database. Meron siyang graphical representation. May square, may bilog, may diamond. So if you can see, ang entities, they are enclosed or represented by rectangle. Lahat ng entities, naka-rectangle. So you plot your entities, tapos naka-rectangle sila. And then, you show the relationship, ililink mo yung one entity to another entity, naka-join with diamond. One entity to another entity, tapos yung relationship niya, ilalagay mo sa gitna. So, if your entity is student, borrows, lalagay mo siya dito, yung verb, book. So that's how you represent your entity relationship. And the attributes are represented by oblong. So student ID, dapat nakalink siya kung kanino siya entity connected. Name, contact, and others. So lahat ng na-identify mong information, ilalagay mo sa entity na yan. Sa book, ano yung mga entities ng books? Title, code, author, publisher, number of copy, year published, and other information. As long as it describes the entity, i-connect natin. Sabi natin, again, entities have attributes, also relationships may attributes. So yung information sa borrows, dito natin ilalagay. Information about the student na nanghiram, so student ID, student name, student contact. Information about the book, title, code, author, year published, and date borrow, and date return. Other information that is related to this transaction. So yan po yung itsura ng entity relationship diagram. Follow? Okay, tatlo lang naman yun na shape. Rectangle, diamond, oblong. So, other definitions or review of definition, entity is an object or concept about which you want to store the information. O, technical definition to. If you want to store that information, therefore, this information about the specific object or that object or concept is actually an entity. Kung kailangan mo siyang i-store, kailangan mo siyang i-save, yung information kailangan mo siyang i-save sa database, therefore, that is an entity about that object or concept. Relationship illustrate how two entities share information in the database structure. Ito yung connection. Kaya yung borrow, meron siyang information about student. Yung borrow, meron siyang information about book kasi yun yung sharing of information between two entities. And we have different types of attribute. Meron tayong tinatawag na key attribute or non-key. Again, what is key attribute? Yung sinabi natin kanina. What is key attribute? Anyone? Key attribute is the unique distinguishing characteristic of the identity, the unique identifier. Kung unique identifier siya, tawag sa kanya ay key attribute. Kung hindi siya unique identifier, edi non-key siya. And key attribute are represented by oblong, tapos naka-underline yung name or yung kung anong attribute yon. Kung student ID, naka-underline yan, student ID. Kung student numbers, naka-underline student number. Book ID, book number, customer number, patient number, naka-oblong, tapos naka-underline. Key attribute. Kapag hindi siya key attribute, walang underline. Okay? Composite attribute versus atomic. Pag sinabi natin composite attribute, it is composed of different sub-attributes. Pwede mo siyang, pag composite, pwede mo pa siyang i-divide into sub-attributes. Example, name can be a composite attribute. Divide natin into first name, middle name, last name. What else? Address can be composite attribute. Barangay, town or city, province, region, country, hati-hati yung address. Kaya minsan yung nakikita niyo yung mga application or fill up form online, iba yung text box sa address, iba yung text box. Drop down sa town, drop down sa country, drop down sa province, sa region, kasi composite attribute yon. Okay? So pagka composite, pwedeng hati-hatiin. Kapag atomic, atom na siya, hindi mo na siya pwedeng i-divide. Tulad ng gender. Gender is atomic kasi hindi mo na pwedeng i-divide yung gender. Yan na yun. Ma'am, pwedeng male, female. Ibig ba sabihin nito, pwede kang male, pwedeng female? That's wrong. Isa lang yung gender mo. Atomic na yan. Okay? So, composite versus atomic. Multi-valued attribute versus single-valued attribute. For multi-valued attribute can have more than one value. Pwedeng dalawang value. Example, employee entity can have multiple skill. So skill will be, so kung ang skill ay attribute, we represent multi-valued attribute with double oblong. To show na pwedeng marami kang ilagay na value dito. Ano pa ang possible na multi-valued? Halimbawa, student information, contact number. Minsan, dalawa-dalawa yung contact number nyo. So, therefore, contact number is multi-valued. Hindi siya contact number 1, contact number 2, tapos dalawang oblong. Hindi ganon. Multi-valued, i-double, oblong mo lang siya to specify na we can accept one or more entries for this specific information. So yung address, minsan multi-valued. Meron kang permanent address, current address, ano pa ba? Contact number, yun lang naman for student information. Okay, so multi-valued, more than one value or entry. Single-valued, isa lang. Like gender again, hindi ka pwede multi-valued sa gender. Isa lang yung recognized gender mo. So, single-valued, normal oblong, hindi siya dalawa. Kapag dinalawa mo yan, ibig sabihin, your gender can be true, can be male, can be female, can be L, can be G, LGBTQ+, hindi naman ganon. Kaya, single-valued lang ang gender. Derive attribute, for derive attribute is based on another attribute. Ibig sabihin, we can derive. We can get the value of this attribute from another attribute. For example, monthly salary is based on the employee's annual salary. Or, sa case ng Pilipinas, monthly salary is based from rate with days, number of days work. So if I know kung ilang araw siya nagtrabaho, if you know kung ano yung rate niya per day, that's how I can compute monthly salary. And to represent monthly salary or derive attributes, naka-broken lines sila. Salary. Okay? It is important na tama yung gagamitin nating representation for that specific attribute para malaman natin kung ano yung treatment, ano yung type, ano magiging behavior ng attribute na yon sa information system ninyo. So again, for key attribute, oblong na may underline, composite, meron siyang sub-attributes, multi-valued, double oblong, derive attribute, broken lines. Kapag normal lang, normal lang siya, oblong lang siya. Follow? Clear to that point? Ano kaya? Clear to that point ba? 12 students? Hoy guys, sagot. Sagot naman kayo. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Salamat. Question. Ano kayang information about you that can be considered as derived attribute? What personal information about you that is actually considered a derived attribute or classified as a derived attribute?
Age. Ay,
Yes, Rona?
hindi ako sure, ma'am. Pero age, ma'am. Or either.
Pa-type nga, be. Okay, that is correct. Age. Age is considered derived attribute. Bakit? Derived from what? How can you get your age? Derived or based from what? Another attribute. O anong attribute yun? Based from
Birthday.
birthday. So if we know the birth date, we can compute for the age. Correct? So merong ibang forms or sometimes may mga business organization that is requiring birth date and age. Example sa dentist or sa hospital pag nagpa-check up ka. 'Di ba? Pag first time check up mo, halimbawa sa health clinic, health center, barangay center. Lalagay mo pangalan, address. Kailangan doon ka sa barangay na yon, barangay health center. Pangalan, address, date ng check-up. Ano pa ba? Birthday and age. 'Di ba? Hindi nyo pa naranasan, wawa naman kayo. Ritz kasi kayo Ritz. So, kung imagine niyo yon, name, barangay, health center. So, anong information yung nilalag natin, kinokollect natin from sa mga nagpapa-check up, from the patients. Andyan yung, sabihin na natin kung may patient ID siya, patient ID, if nagbibigay siya, patient name, address, kailangan ma-check na taga dun siya sa barangay na yon, contact number, birthday, and age. Common niyang hinihingi. Tapos may check ka na kung ano nararamdaman mo, allergy, cold, lagnat, tapos pirma. Those are the information dun sa barangay health sheet. Okay. Kung patient ID, so kung ito yung pe-present natin, patient ID, this is, anong type of attribute yung patient ID? Ito lang yung choices nyo. Key, non-key, composite, atomic, multivalued, single-valued, derive. Ano ba susunod? Wala. Key attribute, sabi ni Rona, which is correct. So this is key attribute. Therefore, ang representation niyan sa ERD dapat oblong tapos naka-underline yung patient ID. Okay? Patient name. Anong type of attribute ang patient name? Key, non-key, composite, atomic, multivalued, single-valued, derive. Key attribute ba yung name? Non-key ba siya? Composite ba siya? Meron ba siyang sub-attributes? Atomic ba? Walang sub-attributes? Multivalued? Posible ba na meron kang more than one na pangalan na ginagamit or naka-register? Single-valued? Derive attribute ba siya? Patient name. From Raymond, this is composite. So pag composite, name or patient name, meron siyang sub-attribute, first name, middle name, last name. Okay, so kung ipapakita natin yan, ayusin natin ng mas maganda. So, i-drawing natin to. Wait lang. So, kung ito-drawing natin yan, ang entity ay, saan ba to? Entity, kailangan noun. Hirap naman mag-drawing. Patient. Tapos, ito yung attributes niya. So, pag din-drawing natin yan, patient ID, tapos name, sabi ni Raymond, composite. So, dapat makikita natin, meron siyang sub-attributes. So, yung lobo, meron pa siyang lobo pa. First name, shortcut ko lang ha, pero pagka yung totoo na, complete yan. First name, middle name, last name. What else? So, patient ID, patient name, address. Anong type of entity ang address? If importante na paghati-hatiin or paghiwa-hiwalay yung address, kailangan naka-group yung barangay, naka-group yung mga per town, per province, per country. Kailangan nating hati-hatiin yon para mag-group natin kung sino yung mga taga-Kapas, taga-Pilipinas lang. Pero kasi dahil barangay lang yung sakop niya, automatic or given na lahat ng pasyente taga-barangay Cristo Rey lang, taga-barangay Santo Domingo lang. So hindi mo na kailangan, there's no need or purpose para hati-hatiin pa yung address. Therefore, address can be treated as single or atomic. Okay? Kasi lahat to taga-barangay Santo Domingo lang. Ang kinagkaiba lang yung number. Kailangan lang ma-verify yung number. Kung anong compound siya, anong lot, anong block, ganun. So address is atomic in this example. Contact number. If required na magkaroon ng 2 or more contact numbers, parang sa anong tawag ito? Sa home credit, meron ka mga reference numbers. Kung di ka makontak sa original number, pwede ka ba makontak sa iba? Pwedeng multi-valued. Pero kung isa lang na contact number, okay na. Pwede rin na single valued yung contact number. Birthday. Birthday pwede bang hati-hatiin? If important, hindi naman eh. Nakikita nyo lang sa forms, iba yung drop down ng month, iba yung drop down ng year, iba yung drop down ng day. Pero pagka sinave yun, nilis yun, isang buong birthday lang naman yun eh. MMDDYY yung format. So that is atomic. Hindi din naman siya multi-valued kasi isa lang yung birthday mo. So this is atomic. Age. Sabi ni Rona, age is derive. Therefore, broken lines yung representation ng age. So ganyan yung magiging itsura ng ERD. So kung kukumpletohin natin to, halimbawa, yung another entity is doctor. So syempre si doctor, meron yan sariling attributes. Identify nyo na lang. Tapos we have to show the relationship between, dapat to diretso, magkapantay, hindi ko lang maipagsama. Doctor checks up, or basta checks patient. Okay? So that's the relationship between entity and another entity. So yan yung itsura ng ERD nyo. Now, if you will visualize yung list or yung database ninyo, meron akong listahan ng doctors, andyan yung information niya. And ito yung listahan ng patients. Okay. It is important, i-save natin. Pakita ko lang yung sa patient. Sa patient, ang makikita nyong itsura ng table ng patient, halimbawa, ID, tapos name, first name, middle name, last name, name, address, contact number, birthday, age. Yan yung categories or fields. Yan yung attributes. Kung lalagyan natin ng record, kunwari maglilista na tayo. Patient ID number 1, apelyido niya is Cruz. First name is 1, middle name is tayo na nga yung middle name. Castro. Last name is Cruz. Address 044 Santo Domingo, Capas, Tarlac. Birth contact 091111 o 0919. Amo na. And others. XX. Birthday January 1, 2001. Kunwari. Age 2001 age, that would be, yan na siya ngayon, 22. Tama ba? O kunwari 22. O gawa pa tayo ng dalawa pa. Si Pedro. Abad. Santos. Taga 323 o 322 Santo Domingo. Lahat yan taga Barangay Santo Domingo. O 0917 blah blah blah. Birthday December 25 2002 o 1987. Ilan na yan? 34. Hindi, 34. Tama. Okay. O isa pa. Si Maria. Manalo. Obie. Taga Santo Domingo. 0999. Blah blah blah. Birthday June 12 64. Ilan taon na yan ngayon? 2021 minus 1964, 57. Tama? Okay. So, kunwari, yun yung records natin sa barangay plus other information. Yan na muna. So, anong importante dito? Na-identify natin, ID is the unique identifier. So, kailangan makikita rin natin sa tables ninyo, identifier yung ID. First name, middle name, last name. Dahil sub-attribute siya, nakahiwa-hiwalay siya. Address, single value din naman siya dito. Contact number, single valued, normal attribute. Normal lang din naman siya dito. Birthday, non-key, single valued, atomic attribute, ganun din naman sa birthday dito sa tables natin. So sa age, ito ang crucial. Kapag ang attribute is derived, we do not actually save that sa isang database. Hindi natin sila sinisave sa database. Kahit pa kinolect yan dun sa form nung nag-fill up tayo, nilagay natin yung age, hindi naman yan sinesave sa database if naka-database yan or naka-electronic database yan. Bakit? Kasi if you will check the logic of that, so kung first year, halimbawa 2021, nagpa-check up, nagpatawag tayo sa barangay. Lahat po ng taga-barangay Santo Domingo mag-report sa Barangay Health Center para po ma-vaccination. Record natin yan. Ito yung kailangan nating i-record para ma-verify na na-vaccine natin itong mga to. 2021 nangyari yon. By the next year, magre-renew po tayo ng vaccine 2022. ID, hindi naman mababago yung ID mo kasi existing patient ka na. Kung bagong lipat ka sa Santo Domingo, doon ka lang magkakaroon ng bagong ID. Pero kung dati ka naman ng pasyente, may record ka na sa Barangay Health Center, bigay mo lang yung ID mo. Alam niyo po ba yung yung patient ID ninyo last year? Alam ko po 3 dun sa nakalagay po dun sa pakete. Hanapin lang natin yung patient ID 3. Ay kayo po nanalo. So madali natin i-identify na siya nga si Maria manalo kasi dun sa ID. So 2022 na ID, name mo hindi naman magbabago by the next year, correct? Unless babae ka tapos nag-asawa, nag-change ka ng apelido, then you have to update yung apelido niya, submit marriage certificate as katibayan na nagpalit na si Maria Manalo Lagundi, dati pala siyang Maria Manalo Bie. Basta meron siyang proof of documentation. Pwede natin tong i-edit tapos i-update natin. Yung address, pwede bang magpalit by the next year or the succeeding years? Possible if lumipat siya ng compound. Pero sa taga Santo Domingo siya. Pero kung umalis na siya sa Santo Domingo, this will be marked inactive or non-resident na siya kasi wala na siya sa 788 Santo Domingo. Pero kung lumipat siya sa kabilang lote, 790 na siya, i-update natin tong address niya para correct yung data natin. What else? The number. Of course, kapag nagpalit ka ng contact number, you have to inform lahat ng may hawak ng contact number mo para if in case of emergency, if in case that they need to reach you, yung contact number nila sa file nila, pwede ka nilang makontak. So if you have a contact number sa bangko, if you have contact number sa school, if you have contact number sa sa barangay, sa clubs, or ano man yung organization na sinama mo, sinalihan mo, kapag nag-iba ka ng number, inform them para in case of emergency, if may problema sa accounts mo, they can contact you. Yun yung purpose ng contact number. Birthday. Nababago ba yung birthday? Very unlikely na mabago yung birthday unless there's correction in your birth certificate and kailangan niya ng documentation, proper documentation para palitan natin yung birthday. Pero very unlikely na mabago yan. Etong mga to, birthday, contact number, address, name, kung babae, napakadalang lang nilang mag-update, mag-modify, mag-change ng information. Certain scenarios lang yun nangyayari na nag-update tayo ng information. Follow until there? Andyan pa ba kayo?
Ano po?
Okay. However, for the age, every year nadadagdagan yung age ninyo. Kung dito 2021 si Maria ay 57, nung 2022 siya 58 na siya. By 2023 59 siya. Kung nakasave yan sa database natin, edi every year ina-update natin yung birthday niya. Hanggang sa maging lupa na si Maria, kailangan mong i-update yung birthday niya. Which is very inconvenient. Imbes na i-save mo yung birthday niya, tapos i-update mo siya every year, bakit hindi na lang kapag i-retrieve mo, i-display mo yung information niya dun sa form. So, ilabas mo yung ID, ilabas mo yung ID number, yung name, yung address, yung contact number, yung birthday, para mapakita mo yung age. Kung wala man siya sa database, kung wala man siya, hindi siya nakasave, what will you do? You get the year to day and yung birthday niya. So year to day is, kunwari 2025 na. O hindi, 2021. Year to date is 2021. Then kunin mo yung year, birth year, 64. Yun yung i-display mo na age niya, 57. So kung ano man yung year, 2021, 57. Magpalit tayo ng taon, 2022 by the next year. 2022 minus 1964, 58 na siya. Compute lang natin. That's your program. By the next year, 2023 minus 64, that would be 59. Nakaprogram na yung age mo. So there's no need for us to save tapos yearly mo update yung age. Iko-compute mo na yan, kasama na siya sa computation. Just to display the age of your patient. Did you follow the point? Maliwanag po until that point.
Yes, ma'am.
How about the others?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. If ayaw nyo po sumagot, you can leave the discussion. Baka nakaka-istorbo naman kasi ako sa inyo. Let's continue. Okay. For entity relationship diagrams, there are naming conventions that we follow. If you remember your programming naming conventions, these are not really rules that we follow, pero for readability, for uniform, or dahil culture ng community of IT people, IT expert, ito yung fina-follow ng karamihan na gumagawa ng entity relationship diagrams. O review natin yung programming naming conventions. Sa programming naming conventions, ano ba yung mga ano? Kapag methods, modules, usually noun tapos capitalize yung first letter. Kapag variable, small letter. Tapos noun din sila, height, weight, length, small letter lang sila. If two words yung variable name mo, pwedeng gumamit ka ng underscore. Kung hindi underscore, to separate the two words, pwede kang gumamit ng snake casing. Ibig sabihin, halimbawa, so then, last name. Last name is two words. So kung ang variable mo is last name, kung hindi underscore yung separator mo, para magamit siyang, kasi di ba bawal yung space sa variable naming, you can use snake casing, capital yung camel ata to or snake or whatever. Okay, so ganyan. Walang space. So those are examples of programming conventions. Meron din mga ganung klaseng rules sa entity relationship diagrams. So first, we choose singular names for entity types. So kung maglalagay kayo ng name sa entity, dapat singular sila. Book, hindi books. Student, hindi students. Patient, hindi patients. Customer, hindi customers. Product, hindi products. Always singular. Rather than plural. Because entity applies to each individual entity belonging to that entity type. So singular lang. Kasi we treat every entity, every student, every customer as isa lang per transaction. Kaya singular lang po ang entity types. Number 2, in ER diagram, we use the convention that entity types and relationship types names uppercase letters. Okay? So if you design your entity, kailangan uppercase letter yung entity names, relationship names, and attributes are initial capitalized. That is the rule number 2. Number 3, as a general practice, given a narrative description of the database requirements, the nouns appearing in the narrative tend to give rise to the entity name types. So nouns nga naman yung entity types. Verbs tend to indicate the relationship types. Attributes generally arise from nouns, additional nouns, that describe yung entity na noun din naman. So, noun and verb lang yung tinitingnan natin. Kapag yung noun, nagde-describe siya ng another noun, probable attribute yon. Kung yung noun hindi siya nagde-describe, more likely entity siya. Kung hindi siya noun, more likely verb yan, that is a relationship. That's how you identify your information involved in your information system or in your ERD. Number 4, make the ERD diagram schema readable from left, from this side to right, from top to bottom. Mas maganda if you do the ERD diagram showing the first step. So ano ba yung usually nangyayari sa library system? Borrow. So you start from borrow. Ano nangyayari sa sales inventory system? Products or customers buys product. Product sold to customers. So yun yung unang i-describe ninyo. Then kung ano pa yung mga iba pa, yun yung idadagdag natin. You start with the primary transaction. Again, ER diagram is left to right, top to bottom. May magiging exemption lang yan kapag ka malaking diagram na of course, kasi kung masunurin ka talaga, top to bottom, left to right, top to bottom, ganyan yung itsura ng ERD mo. Pero hindi naman lahat ganyan. Pwedeng yung start natin, nandito sa part na to, top to bottom, left to right. Tapos ito, dudugtungan natin. Tapos may kadugtong na naman siya. Tapos ito, may kadugtong siya dito. Ito, may kadugtong siya dito. Nabubuo na lahat. Pero yung primary, top to bottom, left to right. Follow?
Follow po.
Yes, ma'am.
Entity relationship diagrams in data modeling, the cardinality of one data table with respect to another data table is critical aspect of database design. Relationship between data tables define cardinality when explaining how each table links to another. In the relationship model, we can define the tables or the relationship between one entity to another entity as many to many, many to one to many, one to one. Cardinality is cardinal from the word, cardinal numbers, na ilan yung involved. Dalawa kasi yan eh, cardinal and ordinal numbers. Pag sinabing ordinal numbers, the order, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, blah, blah, blah. Pag cardinal numbers as is digits, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If we're speaking with cardinality of the relationship, we identify ilan entities yung involved in each relationship. We can say that many to many, kung maraming entity involved to another entity, many to many. If many to one, marami involved or connected to one only, that is many to one. Pag one to many, isa connected sa marami. One to one, isa lang, one entity, strict one to one. Okay? Examples. Ano kung may example dito? Okay. So example, if we will be identifying the cardinality of the following, paano natin gagawin yan? So, first, husband to wife. Paano nyo, of course, you need to represent this using the ER diagram. Husband, capital daw lahat. Oh. Wife. Tapos relationship. What is the relationship between husband and wife? Husband
Married.
marries. Usually present on present tense. Yung verb natin present tense. Marries wife. If we are following Christian, what is the entity? Cardinality, sorry. Anong cardinality? Ilang husband ang involved sa ilang wife?
Paano?
Okay, so one husband marries one wife. That is the cardinality. If you are following Muslim, gumagawa ka ng Muslim marriage registration. So one husband, limited ba sa one wife?
4.
4 ba yung max?
Yes, ma'am.
O one to many. Paano natin i-represent yon? One, kapag many, ganyan. We also call that crow's foot notation. So, one to many, if gusto mong i-identify yung specific number, max 1, 4. Pwede ganyan. Pero pwede namang ganyan lang yung representation natin sa diagram. Okay? Student to course. What is the cardinality? Student to course. One student can take, ilang course ba sa student? Ilang course yung pwede niyang i-take? Student course. O the verb is takes o enrolls or whatever. O takes and enrolls. One student, ilang course? Pwede bang isa? Pwedeng marami?
Pwedeng marami.
Pwedeng marami? Maraming course kang i-take? Pwede. Kaso hindi lang sabay-sabay. Pero yung sa records mo, halimbawa, student ID 001, first 4 years mo sa Dominican or First 2 years mo, nag-take ka ng IT. Tapos, lumipat ka ng CREAM. Tapos, lumipat ka ng EDUC. Doon ka nag-graduate sa EDUC. Isa lang yung student ID mo, pero tatlo yung courses. So, you can take actually different multiple courses. Sa isang course, ang tawag ito? Baliktad na pala ito, ne. Sa isang course, limited to 1 ba yung estudyante? Sa isang course, maraming estudyante. Like sa inyo, 300 kayo. So, we show that many. Ganito pala yan. I remember. So, you have to show the minimum. Kung 1 yan, 1 student can enroll 1 course. 1 student can take many course. That is okay. Course, 1 course can be taken up by 1 student as minimum of 1 student. And many courses, or pwede rin na 1 course to many students. Dito sa husband and wife, 1 husband can have 1 wife. Kung ayaw niyang maging marami, 1 husband can have many wife. 1 wife can have 1 husband, pero hindi siya pwede mag-many. So, minimum 1, maximum is 1. Sa Christian marriage, 1 husband can have 1 wife, minimum 1. Maximum is 1. Pagkabaligtad naman, wife to husband, 1 wife can have 1 husband, minimum 1 husband, maximum of 1 husband. Ada tayo. Okay. Child to parent. Okay. Cardinality. So, pag sa cardinality, if you need to identify this, so minimum, maximum niya is 1, maximum is 1. Therefore, this is 1 to 1. Shortcut ko na lang. This is maximum 1, minimum, maximum many. This is 1 to many relationship. This many, maximum, many, maximum. This is relationship many to many. Okay? Let's continue. Child to parent. 1 child has parent. O yan. Capital pala. Parents. Parent. So 1 child can have 1 parent. 1 parent ba? Sa registration, sige, unknown yung isa. And more than 1. So pag more than 1, we consider that many. Ang 1 parent can have a minimum of 1 child at pwedeng marami siyang anak. So the relationship of this is many to many. Okay? Player to team. Player to team. Kunwari professional. Professional player. points. One player, pag professional, isang team lang yun, di ba? Hindi siya pwedeng marami. So, one player can only have one team and maximum of one team. And the team can have one player, minimum, and maximum of many players. So, the relationship is many players to one team. Okay? Student to subject, pareho lang nung course. Minimum of one student can have one subject to many subjects. So this is minimum of one, maximum of many. Then subject to student, one subject can have a minimum of one student and many students. So the relationship is many to many. Follow?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Let's check the next topics. Enhanced entity relationship diagram. Entity relationship diagram, mas mataas na level ng ERD. Mas detailed siya. So may mga rules siyang ganyan. Disjoint constraint, overlap constraint, union constraint. Yan ang isang example ng enhanced entity relationship diagram. Following yung disjoint, overlap, union. Pero hindi naman nyo kailangan mag-focus dyan. Professionals na yung gumagamit niyan. And malakihang information system na usually yan if you need really details. And with this example, nakikita nyo yung entity, relationship, multivalued, the cardinality. Yung kaninang ganyan-ganyan, ang tawag natin daw ay crow's-foot notation. Dito naman, ang tawag nito ay min-max notation. Pwedeng ganito, crow's-foot yung gamitin nyo, pwedeng min-max. Sa min-max, lagay nyo yung minimum, lagay nyo yung maximum. Minimum, maximum, minimum, maximum. Pagka more than 1 na yung maximum, therefore, many. Or kung specific, 1 to 4. And then, ayan, minimum, maximum. And then, kukunin niyo yung maximum to show the cardinality or to state the cardinality. So, for this relationship, maximum of 1, maximum of many. So, the relationship course to faculty is 1 to many faculty. Okay? So, ito. This is an example of key attribute. Key attribute, multivalued key attribute. Okay? So, enhanced entity relationship, ito yung difference niya. Meron siyang union, overlap, disjoint. No need to focus on that. Ano pa meron? Clear. Okay. Participation constraints is part ng entity enhanced relationship diagram. EERD. Dito pinapakita niya yung kapag ka double yung line of participation, this means that meron kang full participation. Required yan. Student will be a member of, lahat daw ng estudyante kailangan maging member ng isang team. Pero kung normal na isa lang, this is not, hindi siya total participation. Total, partial. This is total. This is partial. Kapag double line, total. Ibig sabihin, absolute. Required student, all students should be a member of one team. Pag partial, student, leader of one team. partial, ibig sabihin, hindi lahat ng estudyante nagiging leader ng isang team. Pero several students, may mga ilang estudyante will be a leader of or will participate as a leader of a particular team. That is participation constraints. You have total participation and partial participation. Also, that is under EERD for specific details or more detailed diagrams. Your relationship sets can be binary. Kung dalawahan yung involvement, binary, dalawa sa isang relationship, binary yan. Pwedeng tatlo entity sa isang relationship. As long dito sa relationship na to, sigurado tayo na this is not date. This is tatlong entity involved sa transaction na to. Pwedeng more than 3 course, grade. Actually, grade is not entity. Attribute lang yan. Semester, student, o faculty, kunwari. In one relationship, we can represent that na multi-set or relationship sets, hindi lang binary. Okay. These are technicals na. Ito yung sinasabi ko, other notations or pattern standards na ginagamit sa ERD. We have, okay, so chain notation, number, crowsfoot notation, and min-max notation. So, pare-pareho lang naman sila ng purpose to show the cardinality. So, pero iba-iba siya ng representation. Depende sa the practice, depende sa region, yung iba dito European, yung iba dito English. O, depende kung ano yung pinapractice sa region nyo or sa community as community of IT people. Case tools, we'll discuss those details next meeting. Pero before I let you go, 3:30. Sagad ka, ma'am. Okay. If you remember, the library system. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, when you create a database using Access, you can normal operations on how you work with Microsoft Office. Since Microsoft Office is part of Access is part of the Microsoft Office package or suite, pareho lang naman sila ng behavior. So the file name, file extension. Your file extension can be ACCDB, MDB for old versions, pero currently, pinakabago and existing versions, ACCDB. So you create, tapos you check kung saan mo siya i-save. Advisable na i-save mo siya together kung saan ka nagpo-program. So, halimbawa, if all of your libraries, your programs, nilagay mo sa Drive C, library system, o doon mo ilagay yung database mo. Para madali lang yung location. Magkasama yung database and yung program. So, if you create that, create. So, yan yung makikita nyo. Nakikita pa ba yung aking...
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, that will be the workstation or workspace sa isang Access. Same lang with the menus or the ribbons that you have in other Microsoft applications. You have the file. Oh, what you can do in file, new, open, save, save as, print, close, chorba. We don't need to go in details with that. You have the home, options for home, view, paste, self-explanatory naman. That yun yung kagandahan ng English. You will know how or ano yung purpose ng button na yon sa pangalan pa lang. Pag sinabing paste, copy, format, painter, you know na, you know what is filter, sort, ascending, sort, descending, remove, sort, refresh all, new, save, blah, 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 blah. Those buttons. You also have create. Create what? You can create table, table design, form, reports. Hindi lahat to ginagalaw natin sa isang gamitan. Parang sa Word, kagagawa ka ng resume, hindi naman lahat ng menu na to ginamit mo to create your resume. Same logic lang. Kung ano lang yung kailangan nating menu or operation or function, yun lang naman yung ina-access natin. We can also import data from other files towards your database. You can get data from Excel, from another access, from other database, from a text file. There's no need to study for the technicality. Information management tayo. The focus is information management, not MS Access. Database tools, you can work with, ano dito? Hindi masyado to. Tables. So, yan yung mga menus. Check it out kung ano yung kailangan mo. Kung paano rin kayo mag-work with Excel. Di ba with Excel, if you are trying to calculate or create a formula, pero hindi nyo alam kung ano yung specific function na gagamitin natin. Okay. So if we're trying to create a formula for a specific application or what, or computation, di ba tingnan natin is the function. Tapos, hanapin mo kung anong specific ano kaya yung specific function na yung that would help me in my computation. So I could check the financial, ano ba? Math, trigonometry, ano ba specific function or equation yung kailangan ko? Ano ba yung ginagawa ng ABS? Ano ba yung ginagawa ng sin, base, cos, and then try it out. Ganun din sa access. Sine-check mo yung function. Kung if you're trying to do a specific activity, you want to execute a specific action, hindi mo alam yung tools, and then you have to research. So basically what we do in Access, this is your main workspace. Dito mo makikita yung table. This is your navigation. This is your menu. For menu, example, if you remember yung library natin kanina, meron tayong books, information of books. Meron akong books for information about borrowers. Meron akong information about the transaction. So, basically, yung tatlong yon, dahil kailangan ko ng isang list para sa lahat ng books, listahan ng mga books, Kailangan ko ng isang table para sa book. Kailangan ko ng list para sa lahat ng borrowers. So, kailangan ko ng isang table para sa borrowers or sa students. And then, I have also another list para sa mga transactions or sa borrows. So, kailangan ko doon is the information of borrower, information of books, the date, and the date return. So, bale, kung isa-isa yon, books, borrower, transaction, is equivalent to one list, book list, list of borrowers, list of transaction. Therefore, tatlong tables din yon. Tables for books, tables for borrowers, tables for transaction. If I will create that, so by default, meron ka ng isa dito, i-rename mo na lang yan. Ay, naka-open. Close natin to. O rename. O na, create table na. Okay. Kapag ganito ang itsura niyan, ang tawag dyan ay datasheet view. Pag yan, datasheet view. Pag design view, dyan tayo mag-i-state ng metadata. Again, metadata is all about the name of the table, the name of the fields. Nakita ko. Example, this is your list of books. Pangalanan ko siya na TBL books. So, table, books. Yan yung design view. For the design view, meron kayong makikita na by default, ganyan. ID and auto number. Kung beginner kayo, you can remove this primary key. Tanggalin nyo yan para hindi yan makagulo sa programming nyo. Kasi ibig sabihin ng primary key, naka-auto auto-generate yung number na to, kailangan match yung software mo with the auto-generate ID. If you're still working with or baguhan ka, remove nyo muna to. Along the way, as you progress with database programming, mas maintindihan nyo yung behavior ng primary key. But for now, remove yung primary key and then lagay natin yung mga na-identify nating attributes ng books. Start tayo with the code. Sabihin na natin code is text. So for the data type, naka-indicate naman yan kung anong a particular type. So napag-aralan nyo na kung ano yung iba't ibang data type. Text, number, date, time, currency, yes or no, boolean, and others. So text tayo. Ano text lang eh. Text lang. Sabi ko nga. Description, optional, kahit wala na yan. What else? Title. Umayos ka. Teka lang. Required, no. 0. Index. 0 length. For the details, did you makikita yung details? Information about this data type or this field. So, laruin nyo lang yun. Look up. So, we have title. What else? Code, title, author, publisher, year published, category, Year published is date. Can we say set? Check kung later if we can set kung year lang. Okay? So, kunwari ganyan. Mali. Okay. So, ito na yung nakaset natin na attributes. If you notice, yung attributes, attributes ang tawag sa ERD. Pagdating sa database, tinatawag natin yan na field name. Okay? Field name, ito yung mga fields and the data type equivalent. This is your design view. After you design, save mo siya. Save mo siya and then you can go to datasheet view. For datasheet, parang datasheet. Ito yung magiging itsura niya. If lalagyan ko yan ng laman directly, example, code 001, title, gamo-gamo, author, si Rizal, publisher, classics, year published, 1984. Pwede ba yan? Yan. So kailangan niya is the full date. With this one, if hindi siya sumusunod, mag-general lang muna tayo. Saan ba natin ilalagay yun? Default value validation rule, word index, format, year only, short date, wala, time lang to. Kasi hindi naman date yun, year lang yan eh. Wala bang year only? Caption. General. Wala. I-text na muna natin siya. Okay. So, classics. 1983. Category. Comics. Lagay pa tayo ng isa pa. 002. Systems. Analysis. What is your next subject?
OPP ma'am.
Si Sir
Sir
John.
John po yan.
Okay.
Sure. Green cross. Tapusin lang natin itong isa. Published 1990 o 2000. Bago-bago mo naman. 2015. Category, computer. Next. Example is pagbasa at pagsulat. Sempad. Sure. (2021). Category is Filipino. Okay? If direct tayo nag-i-input, ganyan yung makikita nyo. Pero kung if nakita nyo na yung link na sinend ko about crude, tulad nung kay Sir, ideally, malalagyan natin ng laman ng information etong database natin using a Visual Basic program, using a executable program. Hindi tayo direct na naglalagay dyan. Naglalagay tayo doon sa program, tapos yung program inilalagay niya sa database. So wala tayong user direct sa database. You get me? Okay?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
if meron tayong table for book, close ko yan. Of course, you want to save that. You can create another table for, anong table yon? Table for students, kunwari. Tanggalin natin yung primary key again. Tapos, student ID. That is text. Student name. First name. Middle name. Last name. Address. Contact. Ano pa ba? Student ID, tutor, first name, middle, last name, address, contact. O kunwari, yan yung nakalista nating attributes. So that is the design view. Go to datasheet view. Of course, you want to save that. Kapag yan, lagyan natin ng laman yan, magiging itsura niyan ay, so halimbawa, student ID 0, 2021, 001, Rona, X, kunwari ha, Barlomento. Address, Santo Domingo. Contact, 0919-111-1111. Kunwari. Wala munang validation yan. Ibig sabihin, not really correct yung mga information natin. For example purposes lang to. 002. Tapos, sino ba? Jose Abad. Jose Garcia. Jose Abad. Garcia. Address. Bamban. Next, 2023. 003. U-Zone. Nalo. History. 0999. Again, hindi tayo directly nagalagay information sa database. This should be done through your data program, executable program using CRUD. So dadaan dapat yan. If you close this, so I already have two tables. Now the third table, create third table, design view. Dito na yung transaction, example, borrow. So sa borrow, ano yung nakalista nating information sa borrow? Sabi natin, information about the book. So code ng book. Kung ano po yung ideally, nalagay natin. Date borrow. Date return. So ideally, yun muna nilagay. Bakit kasi blanco? Delete. Papakita ko lang. Close. Design view. Kung ano po yung information, sabi natin kasama sa borrow, yung information for books. So kung ano po yung field dito, code, title, author, publisher, year published, category, ganun din po dapat yung itsura dun sa relationship table para hindi magkagulo-gulo. Again, kung ano yung field name, data type, ganun din dapat sa relationship table. Kung kailangan ng student natin dito sa relationship table, kung ano yung fields dito, data type, siya din dapat yung nandito sa table bar row. Plus yung other important information about the transaction. Follow?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. From there, you can start working with this. Programming nyo man. Magkaroon ka ng maintenance, add, edit, delete para sa book, add, edit, delete para sa student. Tapos meron kang borrow book kung saan magsaselect ka ng student kung sino yung nangihiram. Select ka ng book kung ano yung hinihiram niyan and then save. No. Limited lang kasi tayo sa laboratory. So, what I advise is you check yung mga tutorials na sinesend ko, primarily yung kay Renmark, kasi yun rin naman yung ginagamit ko. And if you are limited or nakukulangan kayo with that tutorial, you can check other tutorials.